This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Dave is beyond fired up. Here's what happened yesterday. I'm going to paint the picture. Cam, you can maybe illustrate it a little bit better. Boys were getting rowdy. Heads were busted against the wall. Cam Jackson was throwing elbows. That's what I've heard. I'm just kidding. It wasn't that serious. We talked a little bit about it. I'll let you explain the story, but there's been multiple sources that explain that there was a little bit of a debacle on the defensive line, but all in good spirit. It's hot, it's heavy, there's practices going on. And from my understanding is Chapman expects greatness, perfection. And if you don't do it right, you're going to do it again. And Urban Meyer, I believe, just said that on the show Stadium and Gale, their 300 show, kind of talked about wanting perfection constantly and guys kind of just getting worn down because if you don't do it right, we're going to do it again. Are we on the right path here? Is that what happened? And guys kind of were dropping the ball. So there was player accountability. And this clip that I have here, you see Cam pull his helmet off. You kind of watch it again. You get after what looks to be Caleb Banks. You were there. I read a few things and then watched this, piece together my own story, but you tell us what happened.
Yeah, that's very accurate. A very accurate takeaway. So we walked up and obviously, like, first focus was obviously looking at the running backs. If you know anything about how practice is organized, when you're walking down the practice field, the running backs and the offensive line are very close to each other. So our defensive line. So we watched the running backs a little bit, went to the defensive line, and of course they're probably the most energetic group on the whole team. Gerald Chapman is the loudest guy on the field, 24/7. But there was a little spat, and it had to do with the perfection of drills. And you're right, it was there were some issues with Caleb Banks. Effort wasn't always there on reps. Reps weren't always perfect, and they had to redo a couple things. And over time, guys were getting mad and trying to hold him accountable. The big two were Cam Jackson and Jamari Lyons were the two that were really getting into him. And again, like, that's not to shame Caleb Banks or anything like that. It was maybe not 2 minutes of a 15-minute session of a 3-hour practice that we got to watch. It's a very, very slim portion, but no, you're right. The player accountability is huge, and you saw that with Cam Jackson. Just laying into him like, this is unacceptable. It's my last year type of things. Jamari Lyons, and I think that's a good thing to see from Lyons too, as a guy who doesn't have maybe all of the experience like some of the other guys in the room. Even he's stepping up and being vocal and saying that this isn't right. Gerald Chapman was kind of the even brothers fight type of thing. Like, let's go, let's get the energy pumping. And then kind of when it was time to cool down and cool everybody off, cool down. And Joey Slackman was in there too, kind of being the mediator between everything. But overall, I mean, it's not something that's a breaking news story that everyone needs to, report on and, it makes headlines and fans go crazy for it. But it's just, I think it's an example of that player accountability that we haven't always seen the last couple of years. Cam Jackson, especially taking over the leadership role in that room. Jamari Lyons, who's expected to have a bigger role this year, stepping up as a leader and, holding one guy who is holding everyone back accountable. And that's a big thing too. And that's a big thing, especially with, some of the reports that came out at the end of the season with the defensive line room and, things weren't great and people weren't holding each other accountable. Coaches weren't holding players accountable. Mm-hmm. Gerald Chapman in and he's holding everyone accountable. And you see that with the players now. And that was a good takeaway from it. And it's not something that people need to take away and make a big deal out of. But the Cam Jackson part of it, the player accountability, was a good thing to see.
Ladies and gents, it's football time, which also means it's betting time. Whether betting lines, over-unders, right? Pick'ems, what have you. The best place to do it is a link in the description at BetUS. And for your first 3 deposits, you get back 125% up to $2,000. They're actually just giving money away. And I'm telling you right now, their lines are incredible for everyone to win. They've got overs and unders that are making me scratch my head going, are they sure they want to do this? 4.5 on Florida. They got 10.5 on Oregon. Fantastic stuff. You guys want to be sure to check that thing out. So link is in the description. Let's get back to the content here. And be sure to like and subscribe too if you can. I think it should be headlines for that reason exactly. That it's a positive thing. Like you just said, it's a 2-minute altercation out of a 15-minute segment out of a 3-hour practice. Is what happened that big of no brothers fight? That's what we're like. It's gonna happen. You fight with the ones that you love the most because you expect the most out of them. This fires me up. Again, it happened. He said his piece. Step it up. Let's rock and roll. We're here to be great. And what that tells me is that Chapman's leadership is starting to transcend through everybody else. Go back and again, this is why I was watching the film. The lackluster, just nobody on time, just kind of going through the motions. You can see that every rep feels like this is game time rep, and that's how you should be approaching it. And I imagine that, look, Caleb was trying to take a rep off, and Chapman's like, all right, do it again. All right, do it again. And so it gets to a point where it's like, I'm not going to say anything. These guys need to hold their own person accountable, because when they're out on the football field, guess who's not going to be there? Chapman's not going to be sitting there yelling at them. Cam Jackson's going to be there. Slackman's going to be there. Jamari's going to be there. So if they can't have a voice when I'm not there, it's useless. I love it. I think it should make headlines, but for all the good reasons. You love a little bit of a chippiness. You love a little bit of fire coming from that defensive line. We continuously hear it. And what I love is the consistency that every time we bring you on here, every time I read an article, what do I hear? The loudest part of the room is Mr. Chapman. You hear him 3 football fields away. You hear him all the way here in St. Augustine, Florida. It's an 1.5-hour drive. Let's go. Fire me up. I love it. Swolder, spit on me, baby. Talk to me.
Yeah, no more little practices. But yeah, like, look, that happens all the time in practices. Like, you'll have sometimes, like, guys, when they're competing, they'll get angry, they'll get frustrated if they're getting beat, or something will happen or whatever. It is kind of normal in those practices to a T, but at the same time, like, the response is what you really want to look for. Like, how did the players respond to what happened? And they responded in the right way. Obviously, there's a lot of fight, people's energy's up, you're running around and all that. But hey, we never saw anything like that last year, of course. Like, that is something that, like, of course, with Chapman stepping up, and I mean, you hear him on the videos getting after him. Like, he's on their ass, and that's what you want to see. You want to see people hyped up, amped up, wanting to play, wanting to knock somebody's head off. Like, how many times did I say hit somebody last year? And defenseless receivers were hitting our players, knocking them down.
Come on, dude. Listen, bro, we're supposed to be positive.
No, but I'm saying it's changed now. So you've got, the attitude is a little bit different. The strength and conditioning's up. And look, I am for all this other, and we got a dog fan in here that says UGA Gator, or they said UGA by 40. Yeah, by 40 arrests. So I don't even want to hear that. Okay. But yeah, this team is different. This team is different, and they're going to come out, and it's going to be 12-0. So.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.